What's up, guys? So this is the week 7, but for me more like the week 4 through 7 kind of video. So this is going to be a lot longer. So the past couple of weeks have been a lot. My project, doing the 3D copy of the projector, I moved from foam and I ended up doing a laser cut approach because of how the form works with the projector, and I feel like it'd be a way easier. Plus I have a little bit more experience with foam with laser cutting. So we'll see how that works out. I've got the whole template finished. I just need to laser cut it and then start gluing, and then start adding seals or sanding, as well as just like a first primer coating. As well as I have to make a jig for the bottom because there's a fillet around the bottom. So I have to make a jig for that so we can apply the primer. I don't know if it's the primer or the silicone around it, so that makes that fillet shape. Considering I'm doing 2 separate wood pieces. Other than that, pretty much what we're doing now is I need to 3D or laser cut acrylic as well, or yeah, acrylic, and then for like the ridges on the side that add like air ventilation, and I also need to do a silicone molding at the front, and so that's pretty much what I need to do left, as well as add some primer coats, and then we're gonna be painting it and finishing it, so on and so forth. So update on how the interview went at Facebook. So I flew out last Tuesday to San Francisco, California, and I stayed at a hotel overnight. Then the next morning I went to the headquarters where I met the recruiters and a bunch of other kids that are being considered for the position, as well as going through like an introduction, and then we kind of got like a small tour of the place, and then we had 3 actual product designers come in and do like a Q&A panel for us. They talked about what their specific jobs there were, what like section of Facebook that they worked in, as well as some of the challenges that they face, some advice for us going through the interview process. And I was actually really surprised. It was really laid back. You know, being that one of my first actual professional interviews, I thought it was going to be a lot more like professional, but I think since it's in like the tech industry, they're a lot more casual and comforting rather than just uptight and very professional, like suit and tie. So I found that was really awesome. They really seem to care for their employees, and the actual place itself was astonishing. After we did some of that Q&A panel, we moved on to 2 interviews. The first interview was a portfolio kind of review, looking at some previous work, some past projects, going over the steps that you made in the process, the reason behind the decisions that you made. And one of the big things that they stressed was intentionality, as they put it, which is basically like for every decision or every thing that you decide to do in a design, there has to be an intention or a reason behind that decision, which I found out was actually like kind of crazy, because I realized that especially when I started designing, I went off a lot of intuition or what feels right or what looks right. And so now I feel like, especially since we're getting into more of like user research and like gathering data before we actually do designs to solve problems, that this is like a huge step. As well as one of the things it stresses is that design is supposed to solve a problem. There's supposed to be a need to design something rather than just designing for the sake of design. And I found that was kind of crazy, because a lot of the projects that we do are just kind of getting familiar with form or craft or specific technologies, stuff like that. So that was really interesting. After that, we moved on to a second interview, which was the app critique, where we talked about me and the interviewer chose a specific app that we both had or had experience with, and then we went over it. And the way he put it is that the main thing that he's looking for is he's looking to see if I can find the intentionality or the reasons that the designer at Spotify, the app that we chose, had for doing these designs and deciding on this way to design the app. So I found that was really interesting and actually like a really fun exercise. It makes you think a lot about specific things in apps that you use, why they do certain things, like especially with contrast. Contrast was a huge one in Spotify, and then like design language, consistency, stuff like that. So that was really cool. After that, we did a tour of the facility. It was sick. I didn't know it was designed by Frank Gehry, so that was really cool. There was a lot of art everywhere, which was kind of surprising, honestly. And they have this thing called, like, I think it's artist residency or something, where they find like local artists in San Francisco and they do big murals in different places in Facebook, which is really cool. So that was really awesome. Other than that, some of the other classes, I finished my SolidWorks chair and we laser cut that, and actually ended up really well. Now we're moving on to using more advanced or complex operations in SolidWorks, so that's fun. Other than that, in our plastics class, we're learning how different plastics kind of work, or what environments they're made for, or what conditions they're made for, or how they're made, and what plastics to choose for what kind of designs, stuff like that, just more like material based stuff. We're also doing a field trip this Thursday, so that'll be fun, but it's at 8 a.m. so it probably won't be that fun. Next class, we have Design Digital Techniques, which is more InDesign based. We started making a design stationery, which is kind of more common design, but it's fun and it's really cool to learn how to use how InDesign works. Other than that, not much to update on. Projects are pretty much going well. I'm a little bit behind in class because of my trip to San Francisco, but nonetheless, I'll be back and ready to show you guys more updates on my progress. Peace.